Greetings from Malaysia. Welcome to the world's most distinguished biennial conference of statisticians. This year, the 63rd ISR World Statistic Congress 2021, with the subject Statistics and Data Science for a Better World, will bring us together virtually. After the wonderful ISRWSC 2019 in Malaysia, I'm truly honored to meet all of you in this Congress once more. As the Chief Statistician, I am convinced that we should continue to support this renowned event because it is our statistician biennial occasion. Let me begin by congratulating President John Beller, Director Ada Clinton, and the committees on successfully bringing this virtual Congress to participants all across the world. This event provides an opportunity to discuss economics and social statistics and to really support for more effective policy making. We are delighted to see such a high level of participation from around the world, and we appreciate those who attend very early in the morning and some very late at night. Indeed, the participants comprise of statisticians, academicians, and policymakers on data needs and identify long-term challenges for statistics, such as new technologies, new opportunities, and changes in traditional methodologies using existing data sources. Capturing informal and microeconomy in digital era is the title of the invited paper session today. Examine how the informal sector has impacted the country economics and social development, as well as what we can do to address these issues. This will be the main elaborated topics for this session. The informal economy employs more than half of the global workforce and account for more than 90% of micro and small businesses, according to the International Labour Organization. Small or undefined workspace, unsafe and unpleasant working conditions, low levels of skill and productivity, low or irregular incomes, long working hours, and other characteristics of the informal economy are common. This sort of economic activity must be formalized in order to be recognized, registered, regulated, or protected under government law, labor law, or social protection. How can digitalization assist regulators, governments, and non-governmental organizations in obtaining, identifying, and analyzing information on informal and microeconomic data in their countries? There are two papers in this session. One, enrichment of informal sector data through collaboration between agencies. And second, Malaysia International Trade in Services unleash the cross-border trade in digital services. The informal economy can be used to generate more money or serve as a social safety net. Because of low productivity, poor wages, and limited access to government subsidies, poverty levels among those in informal employment are on average higher than those in official employment. The COVID-19 pandemic has presented us with new and severe problems. Statistical agencies had to adapt and operate differently as a result of the pandemic. We must recognize that the immediate post-pandemic economy will likely look substantially different, with more people working from home, changing customer spending habit, global supply chain disruption, new occupation and skill and income inequalities. In Malaysia, the Department of Statistics conducted an online special survey on the effect of COVID-19 on the economy and individual from 23rd to the 31st of March 2020 and on the 10th to the 24th of April 2020. Both pools received a total of 168,182 and 41,386 responses from people aged 50 and above. The findings are based on respondent input, which include qualitative personal views on the economy, employment, spending habit, and education. Agriculture and services sector registered the highest percentage of job losses compared to other sectors, with 21.9% and 15.0% respectively, while effect of COVID-19 outbreak by employment status found that 46.6% of self-employed employees have lost their jobs. As a whole, COVID-19 pandemic has impacted 96.3% of respondent lifestyle. Meanwhile, 3.7% of respondents mentioned that their lifestyle was unaffected. As a result, we believe the informal sector may account for the majority of job losses. The presenters will propose new indicators and approaches to address those data requirements. We hope that this session will provide an opportunity for the informal sector community to further define the informal sector and informal employment. Moving on, it is now my pleasure to introduce our guest speakers, a young statistician from the Department of Statistics Malaysia called Team Big Data Analytics. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Noradila and Mr. Ahmad Najmi to share their insight in this topic.
Greeting from Malaysia. It's been an honor to be part of this prestigious event worldwide. Welcome and selamat datang to everyone to presentation session for IPS ISI WXC 2021. My colleague and I, Ms. Adila, and I am Najmi, are honored to present our thought on unreach of informal sector data through collaboration between agencies. Without further ado, let we have a look at the content of this presentation. The presentation outline consists of the following part. Start with the introduction, followed by the database development. Then we will sneak peek our interim report has been done. And finally, we will explore the issue and challenge as well as recommendation for this study.
Assalamualaikum. Hello everyone. I'm Adila as previously introduced by Mr. Najmi. Let's start with the introduction. Let me share the screen. As what has been practiced by Department of Statistics Malaysia, the informal sector workforce survey is a module in the labour force survey. Starting 2013, the survey is conducted biennially. The informal sector workforce survey presents employment statistics according to selected demographics and socio-economic characteristics. Statistics of employment in the informal sector in the survey do not include employment in agriculture-related sectors and activities. For most countries, agriculture and related activities are not included in the statistical scope of the informal sector. According to the findings of the survey, Employment in the informal sector shows an increasing trend of 450,000 persons from 953.1 thousand persons in 2010 to 1.4 million persons in 2015. However, starting 2015, the trend showed a decline by registering 146.9 thousand people to 1.26 million people in 2019. Referring to the contribution of the employment in the informal sector to the overall employment in Malaysia, the percentage has increased from 8% in 2010 to 10% in 2015. Starting in 2015, the trend of employment contribution in the informal sector showed a decrease by 8.3% in 2019 as compared to 9.6% in 2015. Regarding to the International Labour Organization, ILO, the informal sectors refers to economic activities of workers and entities which are in law of practice not covered by formal arrangements. Based on the guideline and recommendation of the ILO, with reference to the manual measuring informality, which is a statistical manual on the informal sector and informal employment, agricultural related activities are excluded from the coverage of the informal sector survey. Now let's proceed to the informal sector and industry micro, or we call it SIM, database development. According to the informal sector workforce survey, almost 70% of informal employment in the informal sector comprised of self-employed. It was estimated that almost half of self-employed employees have lost their job and 0.62 million unpaid family workers might be directly affected by the Movement Control Order (MCO) from 18 March to 28 April 2020 due to COVID-19 outbreak. The global spread of COVID-19 pandemic is now witnessing the uncertainty and slowdown of the world economy. There are opportunities to revive and drive the economy by increasing the use of analytical data, including administrative and data sharing. This is why Big Data Analytics is one of the initiatives explored by Department of Statistics Malaysia in developing the informal sector and microeconomic SIM database. It is to help the government make the best decision efficiently, accurately, and effectively. The database was developed to facilitate the government in identifying organizations or individuals that are involved in informal and micro activities in order to channel appropriate financial assistance and skills to the right targeted groups. This initiative considers extending the informal sector definition with the involvement of agricultural activities. Now I will let Mr. Najmi, to continue in explaining on how we manage the data and develop the database. Najmi, please proceed.
Now we go for the database development, informal sector and industrial micro database development. For the methodology, we start with identifying the scope of the informal sector and the micro industry. The scope is across of the Malaysia sector comprised of 5 main sectors, mainly agriculture, manufacturing, service, construction and mining. The data source is come from the primary and the secondary data and the online data as well. For the second part, we determining the definition of informal sector and micro industry using the definition from the ILO and also same definition. And third phase, we identify and obtain the relevant data, which is the data collected shall comply with the same predetermination definition, and also data from the variety of the sources are obtained in accordance with the following methodology. The data collection methodology should be come with two type of data, which is primary data and also secondary data. For the primary data, we identify the existing data pertaining to informal sector in Department of Statistics Malaysia, such as the Informal Sector Survey, MSBR, Malaysian Statistical Business Registry, WRC, and also survey for the COVID. And for the secondary data, we obtain data from the agency, and the agency involved are as following. For example, Pharma, Rista, and many more. And then we get the individual profile data from the National Registration Department to complete the trade and entrepreneur profiling. And then we obtain the data from data matching on assistant received from the traders and entrepreneur profile information. And for the other part, we obtain the e-commerce data from the price intelligence platform and also online data from Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And next, the data cleaning is carried out. And last part, based on the information of the SIM analysis is conducted. And here we go. Okay, for data management is a set of process between data collection and the result. Why do we need to do this? Of course, it's due to the verification and the reliability of the data. It's a formalized way to ensure that the project is organized in such way that the data back up our result. These are the standard approach and crucial because they are stop you making mistake in analysis. The data management plan are a process that ensure the accuracy and quality of the data. For the gold standard is to ensure that the collection data is correctly and accurately moved from raw into capture into the final form. No mistake in capturing, moving or uploading the data. No error in analysis from the data quality. We need a data management plan because to show that we can manage the data from the collection and to preservation with the scientific validation. Okay, next. The cross-industrial standard process for the data mining, CRISPR-DM, is the process model with a 6 phase that naturally describe the data science life cycle. Follow the CRISPR-DM in a more flexible way, iterate quickly, and layer in the agile process. CRISPR-DM indirectly evoke the agile principle and practice by stating the sequence of the phase is not rigid. It starts with, first of all, on the business understanding, what does the business need? Data understanding, what data do we have need and it's clean. Data preparation, how do we organize the data for modeling, what the modeling technique should we apply, evaluation, which model best meet the business objective, and lastly, deployment, how do stakeholder access the result. For this approach of data management, we are focusing on the phase 3, which is data preparation, on how we organize the data. This approach we take in every stage of the data cleaning from every agency. This methodology is adaptation of the usual data management process. Next, for the slide 9, the vast amount of data emerged from the social media, online registration, transaction, record keeping, satellite and GPS tracking device, natural language, and the information network. The rise of the crowdsourcing platform made the data collection easier, cheaper, and faster. For this study, there are two main sources of data, which are administrative data and the social media data. Administrative data would benefit us in terms of 1. Large size, usually cover the whole population rather than the sample or subset that reduce the sample error. Second one is the high quality information. Response generally have consequent from the respondents. Longitudinal, usually covering the same unit over time and provide the natural panel structure. Next, sources of administrative data show the promise, but they complement rather than supplement traditional survey. Better integration of different data source through development joint protocol and methodology, promoting the accumulation of the knowledge. Similar to data linking for this project, social media provide goldmine of data for communication. It's different from the traditional social science research method such as survey or experiment. We will introduce the general procedure on how to collect the social media data on content, usage, structure via the direct scraping using the open source package. Let me start the short demonstration on scraping the data from the social media, for example from the Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Let's do it.
Informal sector and micro-industry statistics Malaysia 2020 are published based on the same database for the reference year of 2019, which is compiled at the state and national levels. These statistics were generated from secondary data provided by other relevant ministries and government agencies. The statistics released fulfill the definitions and guidelines by the ILO. The interim report for SIM 2020 has been prepared as a limited distribution of the reference of ministries and agencies. This publication is an important input to the planning of social and economic policies of the country, as well as a source of reference for researchers and academics. This is the snapshot of the report. The report presents informal sector and industry micro-statistics according to selected demographic and socio-economic characteristics such as gender, age group, and industry. We also include some findings on the potential data on informal sector through social media like Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. In preparing and developing the database, there are also some issues and challenges faced. The first one is challenge in preparing standard format or available as a current format varies between ministry and agency. Second is a challenge to prepare standard classification for data profiling for each ministry and agency. And then next is to obtain cooperation in data management from the agency. This is really important in order to enable the uniformity of sharing data structures and metadata. Next is to monitor stakeholder involvement in order to ensure consistency in data sharing so that the SIM database is always up to date. And then next is to ensure the government agency to apply optimal data usage outcomes. In terms of data management, data source from various agencies has several challenges such as incomplete information and the duplication within the agency and between other agencies. Therefore, the cleansing process need to be implemented in a conducive environment in terms of infrastructure, access, and others. There are some recommendations in order to face the challenge. The first one is SIM system development. This system is developed to ensure the classification and uniformity of information can be collected from each agency, especially local authority. This system will help to collect, standardize, and centralize the data specifically from multiple local authorities. Second one is SIM mobile apps development. The purpose of these mobile apps is to track the location of informal and micro industry activities. I think me and Najmi have shared our method in capturing the informal sector and industry micro activities, especially during this COVID-19 outbreak. Hopefully, this presentation will give a benefit and guide to others in utilizing the digital platform. Thank you from both of us.
Thank you, Ms. Noradila and Mr. Najmi, for informative and engaging presentation on the details of the data integration process and the potential option for improving data quality. Aside from that, the COVID-19 pandemic has changed the way organizations operate by adopting technology to meet difficulties and boost competitiveness through the digital economy. Businesses all throughout the world benefited from digital trade, which provided access to new markets during the movement limitation. Ladies and gentlemen, recently Malaysia has officially launched the My Digital Initiative, a part of the government plan to transform the country into a digitally driven, high-income nation and a regional leader in digital economy by 2030. The government endorsed more sectors to magnify the nature of businesses to the online space for its survival locally and globally. The rising demand for online shopping have created employment opportunities for vulnerable households by participating in entrepreneurial activities. Contribution of entrepreneurial household with its capture under informal economy still relatively lower than the formal sector to Malaysia digital trade. The rapidly growing digital trade, whether formal or informal, is difficult to categorize as the transaction span multiple services and countries. Capturing informal activities between resident and non-resident will be a significant challenge for the compiler, but it is required. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that we introduce our statistician from the Balance of Payment Division, DOSM, Ms. Kumota and Ms. Aidawani, who will discuss more detail about cross-border trade in services.
Thank you, Dato Sri Chief. Hi everyone, greetings from Malaysia. Today, we are honored to present our thoughts on Malaysia's international trade in services, unleash the cross-border trade in digital services. The presentation outline consists of following parts: introduction, concepts and definitions, services integrated with ICT, digitalization in informal economy, the benefit of digital trade, data collection of Malaysia's services in trade, issues, challenges, and way forward. First of all, let's look at a glance on the performance of Malaysia's services trade and contribution of ICT to Malaysia's economy. Based on the statistics released by the Department of Statistics Malaysia, in 2020, Malaysia's exports of services recorded 92.6 billion ringgit as compared to 170.2 billion ringgit in the preceding year. Imports of services posted 140.1 billion ringgit as against 181.1 billion ringgit in 2019. The significant drop in export of services was due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which has disrupted the key services of Malaysia, namely travel and transport. The major components of SEED's exports of 2020 were other business services, which contributed 29.2%, followed by transport, telecommunications, computer and information, and travel. Meanwhile, information communication technology, ICT, contributed 19.1% to the Malaysia's economy in 2019. The major contributors to gross value added of ICT were ICT services with 43.5% of shares, ICT manufacturing, ICT trade, content, and media. In shaping the Malaysia's digital economy, My Digital is a national initiative which symbolizes the aspiration of the government to successfully transform Malaysia into a digitally driven, high-income nation and a regional leader in digital economy by 2030. According to the Malaysia's Digital Economy Blueprint, digitization is the process of converting information into a digital, computer-readable format. Basically, developments in information and communication technologies, while digitalization is the integration of digital technologies into everyday life. What is digital trade? Referring to the handbook on measuring digital trade by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, World Trade Organization and International Monetary Fund, digital trade refers to digitally enabled transactions of trade in goods and services that can either be digitally or physically delivered. It relies on the use of digital technologies to facilitate trade. The nature of transaction involves a digitally ordered plus digitally delivered or digitally delivered. For an example, softwares, e-books, audiovisual services that delivered online. Digital trade involves goods and services. Elaborating further on this, rapid growth in technologies have created more digitalized businesses and provided employment opportunities for vulnerable households by participating in entrepreneurial activities through online platforms, especially during COVID-19 pandemics. This has been raised. Generally, the institutional sectors that involved in digital trade are corporations, business to business, government, business to government, households, business to consumer, and consumer to consumer, non-profit institutions serving households. It should be noted that the contribution of entrepreneurial households, which is captured under informal economy, still relatively lower than the formal sectors to Malaysia's digital trade. Moreover, the rapidly growing digital trade, whether formal or informal, is challenging to be identified as the transactions involved across services. To conduct the digital trade at the first place, there is a need to establish digital-enabled platforms, which refers to online interface that facilitate the direct interaction between multiple buyers and multiple sellers. For instance, Amazon, Alibaba, Airbnb, Booking.com, eBay, and etc. In defining the multitude forms of digital trade, digital economy refers to economic and social activities involve use of digital technology in the economy. Digital trade, as I mentioned earlier, digitally enabled transactions in trade in goods and services that can digitally or physically delivered. E-commerce is defined as sales and purchase that conducted over computer networks by methods specifically designed for the purpose of receiving or placing orders that involve goods and services. E-business refers to businesses that conducted any process that an organization conducts over computer-mediated networks and technologies. As the world progresses towards digitalization, it is inevitable for consumers to significantly turn towards the online medium for everything. According to United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, ICT services are defined as service activities that are intended to enable and or fulfill the function of information, processing and communication. Telecommunications, computer and information is among the services component which completely integrated to ICT. Telecommunication consists of devices other than computers are increasingly interacting with the internet, like broadcasting services. Cloud services is install and provide application software, manage infrastructure and platform that run the applications. Digital content refers to digitally delivered media contents like video games, video on demand, digital music, and e-publishing. While streaming is a platform to access content such as movies, TV programming, and videos directly over the internet without downloading them. E-commerce is the marketing platforms such as eBay, Amazon, and Alibaba. The top e-commerce platforms in Malaysia is Shopee, Lazada, 11 Streets, PG Mall, and etc. During the COVID-19, there were an increase in demand in streaming services and internet subscription due to the implementation of lockdown and work from home in Malaysia. Based on the recent research, Malaysia registered close to 1 million new over-the-top or streaming subscribers in 2020 to 14.1 million users, representing about 78% of the ages 15 and above viewing population. Thank you. My co-presenter, Ms. Aidawani Abdullah, will continue the presentation by stressing more on digital and informal economy in trade services.
Thank you, Ms. Kumta. Hi everyone. Without further ado, let me explain on ICT-enabled services. These services are defined as services that are delivered remotely over ICT networks and include activities that can be specified, performed, delivered, evaluated, and consumed electronically. Services that categorized as potential ICT services are other business services that comprises sales and marketing services, not including trade and leasing services, such as advertising, market research, and public opinion survey. Management, administration, and back office services, as example, legal services, accounting, auditing, bookkeeping, and tax consulting services, business and management consulting and public relations services, and other business services not included as well. Third, engineering, related technical services, and R&D, such as architectural services, engineering services, scientific, and other technical services. According to Malaysia Online Advertising Market Research Report, CAN Research, the market is dominated by social media advertising based on advertising spend in 2018, and the top platform was Facebook. In the similar context, other potential ICT-enabled services are personal, cultural, and recreational services include education and training services, information services and audio-visual services, encompasses health services, heritage and recreational services. Currently, Malaysia experiencing a growing online games, so-called e-sport, information services such as news agency services, and other information services. Third, financial and insurance services. Financial services like facilitating cross-border online banking services, especially with neighboring countries. Insurance services such as reinsurance, auxiliary insurance services, direct insurance, and pension services. Fourth, charges for the use of intellectual properties, franchises and trademarks, licensing fees, licenses for the use of outcome of R&D, and licenses to reproduce or distribute audiovisual product. During the lockdown in the countries across the world amid COVID-19, governments, corporates, and small businesses are adopting new digital strategies and tools to keep their news and businesses alive. For instance, those being agile by taking new initiatives to disseminate the statistic information locally and internationally through its YouTube platforms, Stats Malaysia. Besides, other social medias like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and etc. to ensure everyone aware of current economic situation in the country. How services component involved in digital trade. Here are some examples based on product and technology. It was noticeable that transport and travel also use the digital technology. For instance, the use of GPS vehicle tracking software in transportation. While in travel, the online reservation or payment made by tourists on accommodation, car rental, and etc. to the host country. E-transaction services by Tax Office of Malaysia and OTT movie production by media firm in Malaysia are some other examples how digitalized services operate. Let's see on the digitalization in informal economy. Informal economy, also known as gig economy, it is free market system in which temporary, flexible job bring on independent employees and freelancers. Digitalization has created more opportunity for individuals to engage in informal jobs as main or supplement income. Example of individuals involved in informal economy are media content creators in YouTube, TikTok, online marketing professional, freelance content writer or proofreaders served internationally, Malaysians who sell computer e-software through Shopee or Lazada platforms are part of gig economy, drivers, individuals drivers at border town Malaysia, Singapore and Malaysia, Thailand. Next. By looking at the benefits, digital trade has the potential to support development. Moreover, even if individuals, firms and countries do not or only partially take part in the digital economy, they can still be adversely affected indirectly. For an example, workers with limited digital skill, local firms competing with digitalized domestic and foreign one, and automation which increase the efficiency, productivity, changing nature of work and create new works that didn't exist before. Malaysia's measures trade in services transaction by conducting international trade in services survey since 2008 by quarterly basis besides other supplement data obtained from agencies. The data gathered from this survey are used in the compilation of quarterly BOP statistic for services account. In 2016, ITS questionnaire has been enhanced to cater e-commerce transaction. Compilation of digital trade in services has become challenging. First, identifying transaction involving household as producers or consumers is more difficult since it happens through various platforms such as App Store, digital distribution platform for software, accessible through consumers' device whereby consumer can browse, view, purchase, and automatically download and install on the device. Subscription-based offered by any companies or individuals, example, Spotify, apps for audio streaming, Netflix, both apps for video streaming. Second, International Transaction Reporting System, ITRS, which is one of other sources in the compilation data, is at aggregated level as transaction of informal economy by household are below threshold. Among the enhancement that should be considered are information at granular level for information on payment via online transaction between purchaser and sellers. Payment methods may use credit card, direct debit facilities, real-time bank transfer, or direct deposit or other alternative of payments methods such as e-wallet. Among the example of payment gateways available in Malaysia are iPay and MolPay. Other challenges are difficult to measure through household survey as household may not always know purchase was made via a domestic or foreign intermediaries. Over-reliance on cash-based transactions, plus low access to and limited experience with online payments and the use of credit cards. Lack of statistical data on e-commerce, and International Trade in Services Survey, ITS only caters registered companies, not by household. Way forward, there are a few approaches that are in progress to identify the best way to gather required information on digital trade. The future methods are ITS reporting should have breakdown by three main transactions: digitally ordered, delivered, and facilitated. Engage with relevant agencies in digital trade to identify the transaction by institutional units, business to business, business to consumer, and consumer to consumer. Identify the digital trade in informal economy, transaction through credit card data, e-wallet, and cyber wallet. Address the digital trade by household through household survey. As example, usage and access of ICT by individuals and household survey. Company visit to digitalize intermediaries in Malaysia, such as Maxis, DG, Shopee, TikTok, to understand the operation of digital trade. And before I end of my presentation, I would like to inform that statistic of international trade in services 2020 has been published on 9th June 2021. Therefore, please feel free to download the information at the Department of Statistics Malaysia website. Thank you.
We would like to express our gratitude to Ms. Kumuta and Ms. Adawani for an informative and interesting presentation on cross-border service transaction and how to identify measurements for informal services rendered digitally. Additionally, the COVID-19 pandemic has altered the way businesses operate by requiring businesses to adapt to new technologies in order to meet new challenges and increase their competitiveness through the digital economy. Throughout the period of movement recession, businesses worldwide benefited from digital commerce, which enabled access to new markets. This brings us to the end of the session. Let me now summarize on the presentation today. The presenters share experience in measuring the contribution of informal and micro sectors to the economy and related policy in handling the informal activities, especially in the era of digital. In the first presentation, the presenters have shared their experience on how DOSM adapt with modern data integration process and data management system. Second, this initiative is to enrich the available data on informal sector through cooperation among agencies in line with current technological development. And third, the adoption of modern data integration and data management system could be the best possible solution to describe variable data. While in the second presentation, we discuss about number one, digital trade in services are among the most dynamic sector in the modern global economy. Indeed, the potential ICT services such as telecommunication, computer and information, other business services, financial insurance, personal, cultural and recreational services, and charges for the use of the intellectual property will perform well during the pandemic. Second, however, measuring the digital trade in gig economy and informal sector are challenging due to lack of the clear conceptual framework and understanding and yet to be explored in detail. The data of individual transaction need to be explored further. In this regard, the ongoing initiative taken by OECD, WTO, and IMF to study and identify the digital trade in informal sector may help the understanding of compilers across the world in the near future. Let's conclude this session with a renewed commitment to collaborate, to share innovative solutions, and to uphold the commitment we have made to one another. I would like to express my gratitude and congratulations on the good presentation by all the presenters. Once again, congratulations to the organizer of the 63rd ISRWAC 2021 and looking forward to meeting you all in the next Congress. Thank you and the best wishes all.